Okay, yesterday we started learning about Bar Mitzvah. A few interesting things before we start actual Bar Mitzvah, because it's like a big question, when does a kid actually become Bar Mitzvah? So yesterday we discussed the source of Bar Mitzvah, why it's 13, and all that stuff. But there's an interesting question which is asked in halacha basically, and that is, children are educated to do mitzvahs even before Bar Mitzvah. You know, little kids make brachas, they bench lulav and esrig, they eat in the sukkah. I mean, all the positive mitzvahs, they wear tzitzis, do all the positive mitzvahs. The only thing they don't do is they don't put on tefillin. So the question is, why is it that all the other mitzvahs kids are educated to do before Bar Mitzvah, and tefillin, even with that we'll learn that some people, Chabad custom is we put on tefillin 2 months before the Bar Mitzvah. 1 month without a bracha, and the second month with a bracha. We put on, in fact, Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam before Bar Mitzvah. But why is it, and some people, by the way, don't start until a month before, a week before, some people don't start until actually the day of the Bar Mitzvah. So why is it that tefillin is a mitzvah that they don't start earlier? And the answer for that is because tefillin is a very holy thing. Tefillin is extremely holy. In halacha it says a person has to have what's called guf naki. Even the physical body got to be clean, which means you cannot pass, pardon the expression, you cannot pass gas. It's all these things while you're wearing tefillin are inappropriate. To the extent if somebody has a really big stomach problem, they're not allowed to wear tefillin unless if they can just know that they control themselves for Shema or whatever it may be. But so that's number one. Second thing, it says you're not allowed to have any foreign thoughts in tefillin. So in other words, it's a very, very, right, it's a very holy thing. That's why we mentioned in the past that years ago, people wore tefillin a whole day. People wore tefillin a whole day. Why did it stop? Because again, you wear tefillin, you need to behave properly an entire day. It's not such an easy thing to do. Yeah. That's why every so often we touch the tefillin during davening. So anyway, so because tefillin is so holy, so therefore the basic bottom line of it is you don't have to do it, you don't do it. So therefore it's enough educating the kid, whether it's a week before, our custom is 2 months before, but before that, it's just not right that a kid should be able to be wearing something that is so holy that you're not going to be able to control themselves with it. In fact, 1 second, the Shulah Kodesh even brings down, he says every mitzvah has thought, speech, and action to it. And he quotes from Sus Nefesh, Ruach, and Shama, whatever. So he says, what's by tefillin? So tefillin you have ukshartam la'osa yadecha, that's the action tying. Then you have the thought, it says, ulizikorein beineinecha, it should be for remembrance between your eyes, the pasuk says. And the third thing is, the mantihia Torah Hashem beficha, the Torah Hashem should be in your mouth. So when you have tefillin, you actually have all three compartments, so to speak, of thought, speech, and action. And that's why it's an interesting thing putting on tefillin at that time. Okay, now, so now let's discuss, we'll get to tefillin more details later, all the aspects of tefillin. But when does a child actually become an adult? So in halacha it says, actually when they grow two pubic hairs. That's the definition of a halachic adult, when they grow 2 pubic hairs. The assumption is when a kid is bar mitzvah or grow bas mitzvah, that's when it happens. So therefore, when they become 13 years old, so then they're obligated in mitzvahs. Because then the assumption is that we assume that they're an adult, to the extent you can give them an aliyah, they could be chazan, you can count them for a minyan. It doesn't mean you have to check them out, you know what I mean? Because it's not going to work. But technically, the real definition of adult is when they get 2 pubic hairs. What?
Being bar mitzvah has anything to do with being eligible to be married?
No. Rivka got married at 3, according to Rashi. According to Taisa, she got married at 13. But no, there's nothing to it. It's by the way, women also have halachic responsibilities. They have to keep all negative mitzvahs. Biblically, I'm saying. They have to keep all negative mitzvahs. They have to keep any mitzvah not connected to time. There are a few mitzvahs even connected to time that they still need to keep. For instance, Kiddush on Friday night, they have a biblical obligation, or if they did it verbally, rabbinic obligation over a cup of wine. They have to eat matzah biblically, even though it's connected to time. But over there, one second, the Gemara learns it out from Psukim why you need to do it. But women, once the girl is bas mitzvah, she has to fast in Yom Kippur. Biblically, she has to keep all the mitzvahs of the Torah. Just like a boy at 13, except a boy has, as the male, has more mitzvahs, practical mitzvahs, than the girls do. But she's rather, it's nothing to do with getting married. No, she has to hear Kiddush. If nobody's around, she has to make Kiddush. Yeah. But once she's an adult. Now, in halacha, you have always the expression, Yud Gimel Shana V'Yom Echad. 13 years and one day. Which means like this. What happens today is Ches. So let's say tomorrow is Tes Shvat. Okay, the 9th of Shvat. So let's say somebody becomes, they're born the 9th of Shvat. So 13 years later, they become Bar Mitzvah the 9th of Shvat. When will they become Bar Mitzvah? So technically, it says in halacha 13 years and one day. But one day means as soon as the 14th year enters, that means, practically speaking, if a kid's birthday is tonight, and let's say nightfall is 5:35, okay? So then at 5:35 and 1 second, he becomes Bar Mitzvah. He could be Chazan, he could be counted for a minyan, he could be whatever. He's a mamish an adult. Some people like to wait until the kid is up, like if he was born at 10 o'clock in the morning, they'll wait until 10 o'clock in the morning to count him for a minyan. But most people in halacha say the second the kid becomes Bar Mitzvah, in other words, the second the birthday is, it's already beginning the next year. Because now it finished the 13 years. When a kid turns 13, that means you finish 13 years and you're starting the 14th year. Now what happens though if a kid is born in twilight? It's called Bein HaShmoshes. Let's say for argument's sake, sundown is 5 o'clock, nightfall let's say is 5:30. And the kid was born 5:15. So it's a doubt, was it day, is it night? Now comes the 13th year, okay? When is his birthday? The night or the day? So then you have to go both ways stricter, which means as follows. He's obligated in all the mitzvahs, but he can't be chazan, he can't count him for a minyan, he can't give him an aliyah. Well, by night there's no aliyah anyway. But you can't, because maybe he's not 13 yet. So he has to count himself as 13 as far as all the obligations, because maybe he is obligated. But you can't give him the privileges of being an adult, like aliyah, chazan, or count for a minyan, because he might not be 13 yet.
What about in the leap year? What happens in the leap year?
We'll get into the leap year. If a kid is born in a regular Adar, then when does he become Bar Mitzvah?
Right.
That's not so difficult. The more complicated is, sometimes you have 2 days of Rosh Chodesh, Kislev and Cheshvan. So 1 year he's born when there's 1 day of Rosh Chodesh, and the next year is 2 days of Rosh Chodesh. But we'll get to that. But simply to answer your question, if a kid is born in a regular Adar, he becomes Bar Mitzvah in the second Adar, but he should start wearing tefillin at the first Adar. That's what they say. Again, because of strictness. But technically, you can't count him for a minyan or a chazan or anything like that until the second Adar, because that's officially his birthday. If you're born in a regular year, your official birthday or Bar Mitzvah is the second Adar. Now, if a kid was born in the first Adar, well, let's see, he was born in a leap year and he's Bar Mitzvah in a leap year, so then if he was born in the first, it's the first. If born in the second, it's the second. But you have a scenario which is very interesting. A kid can be born 2 weeks or 3 weeks after somebody else and become Bar Mitzvah before them. To give an example, let's say one kid was born on the 25th of the first Adar. There was a leap year. He was born on the 25th of Adar, Rishon, first Adar. Another kid was born the 10th of the second Adar. Okay? So he was born like 15 days later, right? Because he was born in the first Adar. Now the year they become bar mitzvah, there's only one Adar. So the kid that was born the 10th of Adar Sheni, he's going to become bar mitzvah 10th of Adar. There's only one Adar. The kid who was born the 15th is going to become bar mitzvah 5 days later. So he was born 3 weeks earlier, but he comes bar mitzvah later. But that's just the interesting fact of a scenario. That
So you have a situation where there were twins, and then one of them was born a few seconds before this.
you're not going to have that much of a difference between, unless if they're cesarean, complication. One kid is born before another. Technically, you can have that twins can have 2 different birthdays. Could be.
1 month of
Well, if one is born in the 30th, let's say, of the first Adar, and the second was born in the first of the second Adar, so he becomes bar mitzvah a whole month before his brother, who's older than him. Yeah, if one was born before Shkia, one was born after Shkia, so even the bris would be a different day. The kid who was born before Shkia, let's say on Tuesday, his bris would be Tuesday. After Shkia is already twilight, so you have to make the bris Wednesday. So again, you can have twins that have 2 parties. That I don't know. What? 2 parties. Well, sometimes they would anyway. Or they'll make 2 in 1. Okay, now now you have a different question. What happens if a kid is born in one country and then they cross the international date line? So let's say he gives an example over here. So a kid was born in America on Yud Nisan, the 10th of Nisan. Let's say, right? He's born in America. But in Australia, it's already the 11th. But he was born the 10th. So now, 13 years later, he's in Australia. So then, he's going to become bar mitzvah on the 10th of Nisan in Australia, even though, because he was born in the 10th of Nisan. That's his birthday, the 10th of Nisan. But what happens if it goes the other way? He was born, let's say, what case would this be? Okay, he was born in Australia, Yud Aleph Nisan, so then he would be bar mitzvah, whatever, in a different country, maybe even before his birthday, because this is a different day. Whatever. The bottom line is, you're born Yud, you're bar mitzvah Yud. You're born Yud Aleph, you're born Yud Aleph. It doesn't matter. I'll give you another example. By a yard set, let's say. Somebody lives in Australia, and they passed away. So in Australia, let's say it's the 10th day of the month. But in America, it's the 9th day of the month. Right? Because you cross the date line. So now, the guy passed away in Australia on the 10th, but in America, it's the 9th. That means the child who heard the news, as far as he's concerned, he passed away on the 9th. But he was in Australia, he passed away on the 10th. So when is the yard site? So the answer is, he passed away where he was, it was the 10th. That is the 10th. That's the day of the yard site. In America, was the 9th where the child is, it doesn't matter. The guy passed away in the country where by him it was... Okay.